The presidential debate calendar seems to be set, and it is a little different from cycles past. So here's Joe Biden putting out a Clint Eastwood, Mr. Tough Guy video. Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. Since then, he hasn't shown up. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. Here's Morning Joe reporting the news.
Here on Morning Joe, President Biden laying out his terms for participating in the presidential debates this fall.
And the breaking news is they're not going to go the commission route. Donald Trump has already said in the past he's not going to go the commission route. Trump has said he'd debate Biden anytime, any place. It looks like Joe Biden has taken him up on that. Let's see what the president's saying.
Donald Trump lost 2 debates to me in 2020. And since then, he hadn't shown up for debate. Now he's acting like he wants to debate me again. Well, make my day, pal. I'll even do it twice. So let's pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my God.
Oh,
Stick burn.
That was straight down the middle.
For anyone who doesn't know, that's when the court is in recess.
Right, yeah, exactly.
For anyone who doesn't know, that's when the court is in recess. For anyone who has a life and doesn't follow the day-to-day developments of this bullshit Trump trial, that's what he's referencing there when he says, I hear you're free on Wednesdays. But look, I mean, they really love that line.
Pick the dates, Donald. I hear you're free on Wednesdays.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
They're such pigs.
That was straight down the middle.
For anyone who doesn't know, that's when the court is in recess.
Right, yeah, exactly.
like every campaign statement, like every point of Biden's is like an inside joke to the lib base. Like, I hear you're free on Wednesdays. I didn't know what the hell he meant by that. I assumed that's when the court is out of session. I just put that together in my head. But I had to think for a second, what do you mean free on Wednesdays? It wasn't like, oh, what a burn. Everybody knows court's out of session on Wednesdays. You ever think this may be why you're losing to Trump? Because all of your sick burns are just inside jokes to the people who are most obsessed with Trump and most, consumed by Trump derangement syndrome. It appeals to no one else. It appeals to no one else. It's just amazing that they think that was so good.
Yeah. Watching that clip in particular gives me flashbacks. There is no one more devoted than the convert, and I watched this kind of garbage for many, many years, and just the whole tone of a show like that, it's really meant to make its viewers feel like they're getting the inside Washington conversation. And so by absorbing that narrative, you're an insider by implication, right? So then when you talk to people about this, oh, did you see what Biden said? Oh, yeah, no. You know why he said that? I was watching Morning Joe. It's because the court is closed on Wednesday. It was, and I'm sure Trump was so furious when he saw that. He must have been fuming. Oh my God, Joe Biden, he's gonna eat Trump alive. Trump is scared, but he has to do it now. He has to because he got called out like that. That was what was very smart. That's what Joe Biden, he has great advisors,
Yeah, right. All of a sudden you're in on it. So this is from NPR. Biden and Trump will debate in June and September, but the terms have changed. So you notice 2 debates. So when Biden says in that video, I'll even do it twice, you're supposed to have 3 debates, not 2. Okay? They only had 2 last time because Trump boycotted one of them for God knows what reason. I forget exactly what the details were. But you're supposed to have 3, and they're supposed to be in the fall. They're supposed to be post-Labor Day. That's kind of the point of them, is they're supposed to come right before the vote. To have one in June seems insane to me. But anyway, Biden and Trump will debate in June and September, but the terms have changed. President Biden and former President Donald Trump have agreed to a pair of presidential debates hosted by television networks, circumventing the schedule and traditional format proposed by the Commission on Presidential Debates. Biden and Trump will first debate on June 27th. The event, hosted by CNN and announced by the network and the respective campaigns, will not feature an audience and will take place at CNN's Atlanta studios. Now, when they say this is a departure from traditional format. Usually the debates are multicast. Channel 2 has the debate,
Right,
Channel 4
right,
has the debate,
right.
Channel 7 has the debate, CNN, Fox, all the networks get the debates because it's in the public
Right.
interest
Yes,
to
right.
give everyone access to the presidential debate. A one network does not typically, not ever, to my knowledge, get an exclusive on a general election debate. Primary debates, they've done that.
It's a remnant of the public airwaves precept.
Exactly. In the primaries, some networks will have the rights to a debate on one day, but this is unprecedented to my knowledge that one network has exclusive airing rights to a presidential debate in the general election season. The second debate, hosted by ABC News, will be September 10th. A location has not yet been announced. The dates were set Wednesday, hours after Biden's campaign announced he would not participate in the process that the Nonpartisan Commission on Presidential Debates had proposed. The campaign laid out their own terms instead. Trump responded to Biden's call in a post on his Truth Social platform, saying he was ready and willing to debate Biden, and his campaign called for additional debates in July and August as well. Crooked Joe Biden is the worst debater I have ever faced. He can't put two sentences together. Crooked is also the worst president in the history of the United States by far. It's time for a debate so that he can explain to the American people his highly destructive open border policy, new and ridiculous EV mandates, the allowance of crushing inflation, high taxes, and his really weak foreign policy, which is allowing the world to, quote, catch on fire. I am ready and willing to debate Crooked Joe at the two proposed times in June and September. I would strongly recommend more than two debates and, for excitement purposes, a very large venue. Although Biden is supposedly afraid of crowds, that's only because he doesn't get them. Just tell me when. I'll be there. Let's get ready to rumble. The RNC had said in April 2022 that it would quit the Commission on Presidential Debates because of concerns about the timing of debates and over accusations of bias. Biden campaign chair Jen O'Malley Dillon said the president was willing to take part in two debates hosted by broadcast organizations, but she said the commission, which has hosted debates since 1988, is out of step with changes in the structure of our elections and the interests of voters. The commission had announced back in November that there would be three debates in September and October, as is the norm, but O'Malley Dillon said its schedule begins too late after tens of millions of people had cast their ballots in early voting, and said the commission failed to enforce debate rules in 2020, i.e. letting Trump, scream all over Biden in the first debate, which we'll get to in a second. Biden's campaign also objects to the audiences, which it described as raucous or disruptive partisans and donors who consume valuable debate time with noisy spectacles of approval or jeering. I would file that under democracy too. British Parliament, they scream at each other like that signal of booing, clapping, jeering. That's audience input.
Yes. However, the point that they're making in terms of who's actually in that audience is absolutely right. Like, I don't disagree with that. I can't remember who it was, but there was a debate where the audience reaction was so out of tune with public sentiment that it just became very obvious to the point it became a news story about how I can't remember exactly which.
I think it was a primary debate.
It was definitely but I can't remember who it was that was getting this very weird, out of tune reaction.
I think it might have been the South Carolina primary debate where Trump called out Jeb Bush for George Bush, lying about Iraq, and he got booed very strongly in that room. And obviously,
was that what it was?
I mean, it could have been. That's certainly an example because that was a very hostile
when
crowd
you look
to Trump, because they invite the insiders,
right,
the donors. So in that sense, yes.
So on that level, because it's not it's not people draw straws for tickets. It's donors and party insiders in that room. So I don't disagree with this on the basis of how it has been conducted.
As was the case with the original televised debates in 1960, a television studio with just the candidates and moderators is a better, more cost-efficient way to proceed, O'Malley Dillon said. Other terms include having microphones open only when it is candidates' turn to speak. The vice presidential debate should be in late July after the Republican National Convention, she said. A date for that debate has not yet been set. Biden's campaign also nixed the idea of including third-party or independent candidates in the debate, saying they should be one-on-one, allowing voters to compare the only two candidates with any statistical chance of prevailing in the Electoral College, and not squandering debate time on candidates with no prospect of becoming president. So they're talking, obviously, about RFK Jr., an independent presidential candidate who has made it clear that he would like to appear on the debate stage, quickly blasted the campaign's decisions on social media. Keeping viable candidates off the debate stage undermines democracy, Kennedy said. He tweets out the following: Presidents Trump and Biden are colluding to lock America into a head-to-head matchup that 70% say they do not want. That's true. They're trying to exclude me from their debate because they are afraid I would win. Keeping viable candidates off the debate stage undermines democracy. 43% of Americans identify as independents. If Americans are ever going to escape the hammerlock of the two-party system, now is the time to do it. These are the two most unpopular candidates in living memory. By excluding me from the stage, Presidents Biden and Trump seek to avoid discussion of their 8 years of mutual failure, including deficits, wars, lockdowns, chronic disease, and inflation. Now, when Jesse Ventura qualified for the debate in the Minnesota gubernatorial race, he was only polling at about 15 points. He won those debates, and a few weeks later, he was elected governor of the state. And so I do think RFK would benefit tremendously from a debate showing where he allowed on. Now, does he have the polling to qualify? If 15% is a threshold, he's not there yet. And the fact that they're moving it up early makes it harder for him to get there in time. I also think a debate before a convention has got to be unprecedented. Like, they're having the debates. In this case, it's almost 2 months before the DNC.
In modern times, at the very least.
Exactly. So Biden is not the nominee yet officially. Now, this on one hand makes it all the more likely that he will be if he shows up in the debate. Why would you throw a candidate up there who you're going to swap out? On the other hand, this gives them the option, if it's an absolute shit show and he crumbles and just disqualifies himself, which is possible. I don't think it's likely. I mean, they seem to shoot him up with shit for the big nights. All right, but so I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does happen, they can swap him out.
Adderall.
Right, yeah. But if it does happen, they can swap him out. They can swap him out because it's 2 months prior. So it's very strange. It's great for the networks. I mean, it's no wonder why, not just CNN. I mean, CNN has the broadcast rights to it, so they're going to make a fortune. But all of the networks are going to do very well by pushing the debates forward because you start campaign season early. Usually, the big money season in these years is from Labor Day through early November. By pushing the debates to June, you're really extending prime campaign season. So it's no wonder that they bought into this. They're going to do quite well off of it.
Yeah, this was one of the strange things about this. Whenever you hear that politicians who are absolutely loathsome people want to change something, you can assume it's going to be for the worst and for transparently corrupt reasons. I read through this and I was like, well, yeah, that all makes sense. Sure. Right. I mean, the idea that the debate shouldn't take place until the fall is an outdated notion. They're not wrong about that. They're not wrong that the room is stacked with partisans and insiders, so it doesn't really reflect public sentiment anyway. Now, I agree with you. The real fix would be open this up to the public on a lottery basis or some such scheme. But barring that, yeah, does the public benefit from hearing what super PAC donors think in the crowd? Right. No, they don't. So I don't disagree with that. I don't disagree with cutting off the mics. Like this will make it much more like an old school debate, which they actually referenced the Kennedy-Nixon debates in 1960. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. As much of a dark creature as Nixon was, you go back and watch those debates, he doesn't interrupt Kennedy in the middle of his answer. They just didn't do that kind of thing back then. Nobody had to say don't do that. You just didn't do that.
Yeah, you just didn't do that. And, in 2020, there was a lot of anticipation going into that first debate between Trump and Biden because everybody thought, Biden's going to fall apart and Trump is going to come out, with a big boost. And that didn't happen, partly because Trump is too stupid for his own good. He really does just get in his own way constantly. Trump talked over Biden constantly through that whole thing. He didn't let Biden get half a sentence out. If your opponent is of feeble mind and of low stamina, you let him talk so that he falls apart and he gets lost on words.
Get out of the way.
He didn't even give him a chance to do that. Every time Biden opened his mouth, within 3 seconds, Trump is jumping down his throat. You're not giving him the opportunity to embarrass himself when you keep doing that over and over and over again. So, I think both sides are putting a little bit too much emphasis on this. I think the fact that Biden agreed to do it shows that he's losing and he needs to throw a long pass. What I always say, always make the football comparison. Don't throw a pass unless you have to. In politics, it's the same thing. Don't take a chance unless you have to. The fact that Biden's coming out and saying, yep, let's do it, he knows he needs to move the ball down the field in a big way.
It's a Hail Mary.
It's a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Exactly. And most Hail Marys fail. Some Hail Marys are intercepted and they backfire, right? So this could backfire on him. But when you're losing, you have to take those chances in order to get back in the game. And I think that is why he said, all right, let's do it. Game on. I'm sure the party likes having it in June, too, since if he does just have a total meltdown, they can say, okay, you're out. We have time to make a change at the convention. Like, it gives you a good opportunity to actually get one debate out of the way before you have to make that final decision in Chicago.
Yeah, and speaking of Chicago, this came up a lot at the Anya book launch last night. Because I mentioned to a few people, they were asking about when I'm going to be hosting for Jimmy again. I was like, probably I'll see him in June at the Jose fundraiser. And then after that, we're both going to cover the convention. And a lot of people were saying, well, is it going to go online? Is there really going to be much to cover? It sounds like they're going to organize it in a way that people aren't really going to be able to cover anything there. I mean, it might be. It might be.
Maybe. I mean, when they talk about going online, we talked about this in a previous episode. They're talking about having a lot of speeches video conferenced in. So you'll still have a convention hall with a gathering. You just won't have as many in-person speeches so that they can't be interrupted by protesters. I mean, a protester's not likely to get up and scream at someone being broadcast over video on a pre-recorded thing. You could just drown them out with a sound cannon or whatever pretty easily, causing minimal disruption. But I think you guys will still have plenty to cover. I mean, the major speeches are still going to be done in person.
Yeah. My big question is, okay, on the one hand, Brandon Johnson has stated, as we covered in the Politico article, the protesters have a right to protest. So that sounds like he's not going to pull a Daley, which in the modern era, I think would mean penning up anyone who's not a delegate so far away that you might as well not be there. It sounds like he's not going to do that, but he's going to face tremendous pressure to do something like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because it's going to be such fodder for conservative media to have, the convention marred by protests. Just that alone is bad enough press. But then there's this progressive mayor who's hamstringing the police and letting protesters run amok throughout the city. I mean, that's a wet dream for Fox News, So there's going to be a lot of pressure on Brandon Johnson not to give them that win.
Please clap.